Imagine waking up every day in a world where the floor keeps shifting beneath your feet, not because the earth is moving, but because someone you trust is slowly dismantling your reality. We've all heard the word gaslighting, but it's rarely the explosive, cinematic argument we expect. It's a quiet, surgical strike on your sanity that leaves you wondering if you're the one losing your mind. They don't just disagree with your memory, they rewrite the past with such conviction that you start to doubt the very things you saw with your own eyes. It's the ultimate form of psychological warfare because it turns your own brain against you, making you the primary witness for the defense of someone who is actively destroying your peace. This isn't a one-time event, but a slow-motion erosion of your self-worth that happens over months or even years of tiny, calculated denials. One day, you're a confident person with a sharp intuition, and the next, you're searching for hidden cameras or keeping secret journals just to prove you aren't crazy. It shows up in the helpful partner who says you're too sensitive and the boss who swears they never promised you that raise, all following a pattern that leads to your absolute silence. If they can make you doubt your own eyes, they own your next move, which is why your only weapon is to stop looking for their validation and start trusting your gut before it's too late. I want to know right now, have you ever felt like you were living in a different reality than the person standing right in front of you? Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you want to stay shielded from these psychological traps, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe because what we're about to cover next starts like a fairy tale but ends like a funeral. Love bombing is the most dangerous drug on the market because it's the only manipulation tactic that feels like heaven while it's happening. You're suddenly the center of the universe, showered with an intensity of affection and forever promises that make you feel like you finally found the one person who truly sees you. It's a whirlwind of constant texts, expensive gifts, and level of attention that is so intoxicating you don't realize you're being fast-tracked into a prison. They aren't falling in love with you. They are installing themselves into your life so deeply that you won't know how to survive without their constant approval. But the second they know you're hooked, the pedestal is kicked out from under you and the warmth turns into a sub-zero freeze. You spend your nights scrolling through old messages, desperately trying to figure out what you did to make that perfect version of them disappear, not realizing that person never existed in the first place. You are chasing a ghost, trying to win back a performance that was only designed to buy your loyalty before the real control began. This is how predators disguise ownership as romance, and if you don't learn to spot the difference between genuine connection and a high-speed pursuit, you'll find yourself drowning in a debt you never signed up for. Guilt tripping is the silent killer of boundaries, turning your own empathy into a weapon that is used to bleed you dry. It's that heavy sigh when you say no, the mention of everything I've sacrificed, and the long, pointed silences that make you feel like a monster for simply having a life of your own. They don't have to demand anything because they've trained you to demand it of yourself, turning your kindness into a currency that they can withdraw whenever they feel like it. You end up living in a state of perpetual apology, feeling like you're always failing some invisible test that you never agreed to take. For the person with a big heart, this is the ultimate trap because you'll set yourself on fire just to keep them from feeling a draft. You find yourself agreeing to things that drain your bank account, your time, and your soul, all because you're terrified of being the selfish one in their story. The manipulator knows exactly which buttons to push to make you feel like you owe them your very existence, turning a relationship into a balance sheet where you are always in the red. But while they're making you feel bad in private, there's a much more public way they'll try to crush your spirit by bringing in a jury you didn't ask for. Triangulation is the coward's way of winning an argument, and it's one of the most isolating experiences you can go through. Instead of talking to you, the manipulator brings in a third party, a friend, a relative, or even an ex, to validate their side and make you feel like the entire world is against you. You'll hear, "Everyone thinks you're being difficult," or "Even your sister agrees with me," a tactic designed to make your voice feel small and your perspective feel like a delusion. It's not about finding a solution, it's about building an alliance to ensure that you are the one who has to surrender. This creates a high-stress environment where you aren't just defending your actions, but your entire reputation against people who aren't even in the room. It's a favorite move for toxic parents and narcissistic partners because it keeps you so busy fighting the team that you never hold the actual manipulator accountable. You become the common enemy in a drama they scripted, and the more you try to explain yourself to the others, the crazier you look to everyone involved. The only way to stop the bleed is to refuse to participate in any conversation where the other person isn't present. But even if you win that battle, you might still fall for the person who claims they're the only one on your side. The White Knight is the manipulator who wears a badge and carries a shield, showing up to rescue you from the very chaos they secretly ignited. They are the first to offer a shoulder to cry on and the last to leave your side when things go wrong. But if you look closer, you'll notice that things only seem to go wrong when they are around. They chip away at your confidence and alienate you from your friends, then play the hero by being the only true friend you have left. They don't want you to be healed or whole. They want you to be a perpetual victim so they can feel significant as your savior. It's a deeply disturbing dynamic where your growth is seen as a threat to their relevance, leading them to sabotaging your success just so they can comfort you in your failure. If you start standing on your own 2 feet, they will withdraw their support or guilt you for being ungrateful, making sure that you know that you are nothing without their guidance. They build the fire, then show up with the hose expecting a medal for putting out the flames they started. But as suffocating as their help can be, it's nothing compared to the psychological torture of someone who decides to erase your existence with a single wordless gesture. The silent treatment is more than just a lack of talking. It's an active attempt to delete you from the room until you learn to behave. It's a cold, calculated withdrawal of affection that leaves you spinning in circles, trying to figure out what you did wrong while the other person watches you suffer from behind a wall of ice. It's a form of emotional starvation that forces you to abandon your own needs just to get a scrap of acknowledgement from someone who claims to care about you. And for some, that scrap of attention is all they ever get, delivered in tiny, frustrating doses that keep them waiting for a meal that will never come. Breadcrumbing is the most modern form of emotional torture designed to keep you on the hook with the absolute minimum amount of effort required. It's the late-night text that leads nowhere, the like on a photo after 3 weeks of silence, and the vague promises of someday that keep you from moving on to someone who actually values you. You're being kept in an emotional waiting room, sitting by the phone for a person who views you as a backup plan rather than a priority. This loop of anticipation and disappointment is designed to keep the power entirely in their hands while you waste your time decoding their every move. They aren't busy and they aren't confused. They're just seeing how little they can give you while still keeping you invested in their potential. You become addicted to the maybe, ignoring the reality of their absence because you're so focused on the few crumbs they've dropped. But as frustrating as being ignored can be, there is one final tactic that is so aggressive it will make you feel like the villain in your own life story. The DARVO method is the ultimate Uno reverse card of manipulation, and it's the most common way toxic people escape accountability. When you finally build the courage to bring up a hurt, they immediately deny it, attack your character for bringing it up, and then reverse the roles of victim and offender. Within 5 minutes, the conversation is no longer about what they did to you, but about how much you're hurting them by being confrontational or unforgiving. You went in looking for an apology, and you came out being the one who has to beg for forgiveness for even speaking up. It's a dizzying, high-speed flip of the narrative that leaves you feeling ashamed, confused, and utterly defeated. They will cry louder than you, act more offended than you, and eventually make you feel so guilty for attacking them that you'll never bring up the issue again. This is how abuse stays hidden, by making the victim feel like the aggressor until they stop talking altogether. But the moment you recognize the pattern of DARVO, its power evaporates because you realize that their outrage isn't a sign of your guilt, but a sign of their fear of being seen. Would you like me to create a specific list of counterphrases to use when someone tries to use these techniques on you?